Hey guys, and welcome back to the Boxmining channel. So one thing we've been always talking about in this channel is blockchain gaming digital assets. And this is a huge space. Online gaming, I just checked 2.5 billion gamers out there, and top games are getting 80 plus million users like Fortnite. Now, obviously, with gaming in the crypto space, it's a little bit different, and we haven't really gotten the full amount of gamers that I really think we should have. Games like Cryptokitties, whilst financially they're quite successful, the maximum number, the total number of users is around 90,000, and currently it's actually less than 100 active players per day. So we do see some drops off there, and that's a major understatement. So today what we have is we have a panel of very long-term game developers from Pixelmatic Studios. And one thing we'll be discussing is what kind of worked in blockchain gaming and what didn't work. To start off, let's do a quick introduction around the table. We got Jason Lee, we got Damon, and we got Hope. Let's give a quick introduction of our history and our backgrounds.
Hey, how's it going? My name is Jason. I'm the chief creative at Pixelmatic. I provide high-level direction for Infinite Fleet. I've worked in the game industry for over 15 years, and before joining Pixelmatic, I used to work at Relic Entertainment on Company of Heroes franchise and the Age of Empires 4, where I was, lead gameplay, systems, AI, game balance, and economy design. So I kind of play around with all facets of design, and that's what I bring to Pixelmatic on Infinite Fleet.
Hey, I'm Damon. I'm game design director on Infinite Fleet. Been in the game industry for almost 20 years. I've worked at studios like Stainless Steel on Empire Earth, and I worked on Relic doing game balance and system design on a lot of different titles. And I also worked at BioWare working on Anthem doing creature design.
Hey guys, my name is Hope, and I am the Chief Marketing Officer at Pixelmatic. I'm mostly in charge of the marketing and business development activities for our studio, and my background is more in the crypto space. I used to work at BTCC, one of the largest and oldest Bitcoin exchanges in China back in 2016 and 17. And now we are working on this blockbuster MMO game called Infinite Fleet, which has an integration with cryptocurrency as well. And we hope to be making some waves in the space.
So one of the definite recurring themes here is obviously that you guys have quite a lot of experience. You guys are building a new game, Infinite Fleet, trying to use that experience to make a game that's going to be kind of mainstream appeal. Right, bringing a lot more people, creating a digital economy up. I'll probably do a mini introduction for my gaming stuff as well. So I've been working in the game industry since around 2012. I used to start off just independent, trading World of Warcraft Gold, being an economist in games. Made a lot of money, surprisingly. Got all my way through college just kind of selling, trading Warcraft Gold. I understood economies very well. I can utilize that economy and make a lot of money, like real life money. I just actually sold it. And I did like buying acquisition as well. So sourcing gold from different locations and then reselling it to markets that are more profitable. Then I worked as a game designer, and I worked there to kind of optimize economy. So I'm kind of the bad guy. So I would find a game and I would try to increase the average revenue per user. I was there to just make the company more money. And that was important because the more money can make, the more money can spend on advertising. And I learned a lot about the advertising and the gaming space that way. I think to start off this discussion, one thing that we've done in the gaming space for a long time is post-mortems, analysis of successful titles. And I think one thing that I kind of want to bring here is the kind of the Cryptokitties genre. So as homework prior to starting this, I got everyone to play Cryptokitties, Blockchain Cuties, this whole genre of games that's based on this crypto collectibles ideas, of all just kind of Cryptokitties clones. I mean, that was the one that set off. Cryptokitties, honestly, I took a look at figures. I'll just give you guys a little bit of figures here. It's profitable because early on, there were a lot of players who kind of spent a lot of money on it. In terms of unique users, it's around 90,000. Right now, 24 daily active users is 72, so it's not very strong. And the highest it's ever been is at 15,000 users. So That's kind of the stats right now. And obviously, in terms of finances, there were kitties that were being sold for tens of thousands of dollars. This is how the company made money.
I mean, I think the concept is good. It was quite innovative for its time. Obviously, it's one of the first blockchain games that really got some traction, at least awareness, right? Maybe not necessarily prolonged life or actual gameplay stuff, but it definitely got some awareness. I think, like Damon said, I think the concept of being able to like buy kitties and breed your own kitties and kind of see what kind of genetic offspring you can make. I think that's quite exciting because it's it's almost like when you're playing certain games and you're trying to find certain items and then you can upgrade those items, right? It's quite sticky, I think, from a player's perspective. But in terms of the actual game and playing the game, it's I know I'm not a fan because I think the whole thing with blockchain games is everything is way too complex for the average person. I mean, for CryptoKitties, first of all, you need to learn how to get Ethereum. You need to buy some Ethereum. Then you need to learn how to use how to send Ethereum. You have all these sort of steps, all this barrier to entry before someone can actually get on the page and click buy this kitty, right? But I mean, I do like the concept that they're enabling peer-to-peer trade directly. You can buy a kitty from someone else directly, and then you can breed with others to see what comes out of it. But yeah, from a practical standpoint, it doesn't make sense for mainstream gamers.
And I think just to build on that point, I think they dealt with that problem very well. So they knew that the barrier to entry was very high. You got to be either in crypto or understand crypto. You got to have a wallet. You got to have ETH. So I think one thing that they did very brilliantly is they made the initial kitties extremely expensive. So when I first got into the game, there were these Gen 0 kitties, right? So this is what the company was selling. This is how they're monetizing it. And the kitties literally cost tens of ETH. And at that time, ETH was around 1,000 something. So it's like $10,000 per single kitty. So I think one of the monetization things, like I'm very tuned to how they monetize. And I was just very tuned to like, they knew to milk the whales. They knew that there were crypto whales out there that needed to show off that they're, I had a friend, I'm going to just throw him out there. I had a friend, Peter, he's quite a crypto OG and he wanted to show off. So he just bought one of those Gen 0 kitties. He didn't know what to do with it. He just bought one, boom, put it on Twitter, whatever, right? 10K, not much money, doesn't matter. Like I'll move forward. So I think they cater to that crowd of people. So in that sense, I think they did very well because they knew that their audience was so small. They had to really, really milk it. And I think the second thing that I really appreciate that they did very well was they didn't add any battle mechanics to it. So I think as gamers, we all love some sort of depth, some sort of competitive edge to it. But I think one thing about CryptoKitties was that they didn't add that, which was important because the moment you add that, the game becomes very blatantly obvious it's pay to win. And that's not good. And I think how else can you balance a game where a kitty costs $10,000? How does that fit in a world where everyone else costs maybe $30, etc.? So I think those are two elements that they did very well. They didn't at all make anything competitive in there, which is great. And I think the third point I really wanted to point out with CryptoKitties is that they also encourage something that was very common in crypto, which is like kind of making money. You can make a lot of money off kitties because initially, if you want to have these fast breeding kitties to make more kitties, it's almost like a pyramid. Not almost, it is a pyramid, right? You're trying to breed kitties to sell to someone new, to newcomers to buy those kitties. So it can't last forever. They knew it couldn't last forever, but whilst it did last, there were some programmers who really took advantage of fast breeding kitties and they made money. There were people who made tens of thousands of dollars just breeding kitties and passing that on. And the reason why you will buy an expensive kitty is because the kitty would breed faster. So it's like, there was kind of that gameplay mechanic where people can make money. It's almost like that kind of shitcoin kind of pyramid type of structure that crypto is quite used to, I would say, at this point, at that point. So that's why I kind of felt like it took off. But obviously, one of the biggest problems is that it took off for 90,000 players, but it didn't last, right? So coming to these days, I think one of the core stats that we definitely look at in terms of the gaming space is retention. And I think the retention was very low. So do you guys, let's do a post-mortem on that. Where do you think people will leave here? And where did you leave the game, and why did you kind of stop playing? Why aren't you playing on a daily basis? Do you want to start with Hope? Let's do Hope first.
For me, I think it's simple. I mean, if I'm playing games, right, I like games that have depth, that have longitude, and require a lot of complicated strategic thinking and just involvement. And with CryptoKitties or most other blockchain games so far, there's just not much depth. You kind of you explore what's there, and you can be done with it in 10, 15 minutes, I would say. Also to be honest, when there aren't a lot of users anymore, it's hard to buy and sell and trade kitties, which is one of the main points of the game, right?
No one's there to buy your shit kitties, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like nowadays, when there's less than 50 or 100 daily active users, everyone is basically a bag holder. You have no one to sell your kitties to, so it's pretty much done at this point.
How about Jason? Do you? I guess we could just all chime in. I think just let's all throw in and just chime in. I'll stop directing conversation.
So I think the thing is with CryptoKitties, the sort of core cycle of what you're supposed to do in the game and how you're supposed to win theoretically, it's quite simple, right? It's a simple loop, and you get to learn to master that. And to get really good, it's just all math. It's like percentages that you're playing at a later game, right? So
can you explain that into a little more detail? Like, why would it be percentages? Like, just like for those who haven't played the game or who haven't understood it, why is the cycle like that?
Well, the percentage is the percentage in which you're going to have that generation. That's even if like every cat has a certain trait that they can, when they breed, they can pass down to the next generation of cats. But it's all by percentages. Just because the older parent cat has it, it's no guarantee that the offspring is going to have it. So you'll have to do it over and over again until you can actually pass down the exact traits that you want. So
it's like kind of like breeders in real life, right? You want to breed, you want to make the perfect breed, whether it's gold, silver eyes, emerald eyes, and like fancy fur. You want to pass these traits on, so it's all maps, figuring out what percentage they pass on, and then figure out that there, right?
Now the thing is, like initially when players play the game, like they'll probably find it really engaging and really interesting, right? Because these are all new things that they're learning. But once they learn it, they master it, they know how it works. There has to be some level of skill or some level of complexity that they have to continuously learn for them to be entertained. This is like in psychology, they call this the state of flow. I don't know if you guys ever heard of it, but it's sort of like flow is basically that time when you were absolutely absorbed in an activity or something you're doing, whether it's sports or video games, watching a movie, right? So video games have that too, and like really good ones do that for players, where they capture the player in this state of flow, and then they try to keep them there as long as they can by increasing the challenges. So as they get better and better at the game itself gets harder. That's like PvP games tend to do this very well because you're playing against a player, right? So they just match you against better players as you get more skilled at the game. But it's totally missing from CryptoKitties, right? The only thing in terms of difficulty is the RNG percentages, right? So, I mean, players are not dumb; they know, right? Eventually, they're like, "Oh, screw this," This is It's just playing lotto, right? So,
yeah, it was more of a marketing effort kind of game where you're just collecting things than a game. The gameplay was very limited, and you see blockchain cuties on the other hand trying to improve on that. In a sense, they kept that kind of unique mechanic they had of the genome and like that random RNG of combining kitties. Like Jason said, Impossible Creatures had that, but it was player directed, and adding the time element and the RNG is pretty cool. So I think there wasn't too much game in that game. So
Okay, so you looked at the evolution of CryptoKitties, right? So you looked at CryptoKitties and then being cloned and copied into Blockchain Cuties. What do you think? Did you think the innovations worked? What were the innovations for Blockchain Cuties?
well, I mean, Blockchain Cuties had the adventure system where you fire and it also had some combat, right, where you fought NPCs. The interesting thing I found was that a lot of these elements were found in early days Facebook games, like the combat and the it was like text-based RPG elements, right? Like I've played some of the. I almost feel like sometimes when I play like 30 years ago when I played on BBSs, like some of the games had some similar elements, right? And it was like a step. They stepped from that kind of collectible game to kind of a basic game that's kind of had a framework for a while with that kind of interesting genome thing that's going on.
Right. Do you think it worked though? I mean, that kind of adds to it. And I mean, Jason was talking about the state of flow, right? Do you think it added to it? Do you think that it added to the depth of the game where the players, the core loop, where it enriched the core loop so players will keep on coming back? Or do you think it's still too weak for the core loop there?
I think it's interesting. You said there was like 2.5 billion gamers, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
yes.
Every gamer tends to be in a different stage of development, right? There's the early ones, there's the mid-core, and there's people who have just gamed their whole lives and have seen it all. Well, I'll tell you, when I was 10 years old and playing on the BBSs, those games were interesting to me and I was engaged. So let's say I'm new to games and I get on this game. It's like, oh, there's some interesting mechanics that I can learn from and try to manipulate and try to improve myself. And those mechanics do give you the ability to create mastery because you're learning the systems. I think it depends on the stage of the gamer.
Okay, but I mean, okay, so I think you're putting it very politely as well, because obviously you're not 10 anymore. We're not 10. I mean, in this damn age, with gamers being so bombarded by a vast array of very, very well-made games, I mean, there's approach from multiple fronts, whether it's a new Call of Duty, Warzone, Fortnite. We have.
You're right. I was polite.
Do you think? Yeah, I mean, I think you're polite in saying, yeah, if it was 30 years ago, this would be good. But do you think this floats today? Do you think that works today?
Yeah, I think a super small percentage maybe, but not like definitely. Most people have been bombarded with much better offerings.
Okay.
So I think for the target audience that it was going for, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like it would. Like when I look at with the whole quarantine, I look at the kind of games my daughter plays, right? And it looks similar, right? And I can see her really digging, CryptoKitties or CryptoKitties, but the thing is then there's this whole crypto barrier, right? She's not gonna get through that, right? So yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely a game, that can probably appeal to a very young, very, very young generation. But yeah,
it's kind of ironic, right? Yeah, you're throwing the players under a bus here. You're like, yeah, my 5-year-old daughter, she likes this, but I don't think any of the players will be 5 years old. I mean, to be part of this whole crypto experience, you got to be at least able to store your cryptocurrencies properly, and you got to be rich, right? I mean, Blockchain Cuties ain't cheap either. Let's be honest here. It's not a game that anyone other than, I think, crypto dolphins will be able to play. Like, hey, if I want to do an interactive Ethereum blockchain, that's $2 right there. Every action, $2, bro. I mean, I can buy a game for $2. I mean, it's not the cheapest game out there. So I think maybe they chose to do this style because they knew that the crypto audience, they're not hardcore gamers. So they're kind of introducing the newer audience into the gaming space. So those mechanics kind of work for kind of brand new gamers, right? But at the same time, if anyone's been in the gaming space, those mechanics are so kind of overused, I would almost say. It's been in every single game. It doesn't bring anything new to the table. So our curiosity has not been piqued, I would say, for that. So I guess all this works towards, how do you develop a better game? How do we move beyond CryptoKitties? Because I obviously want to see more games out there. I think there's so many elements here that we talked about that is positive in terms of what it can bring to the game experience. But at the same time, I want this to go to the mass audience. And I guess like learning from this example, how can we solve a few of these issues? Is it just about cramming in more gameplay mechanics? What do you guys think?
Well, I think, first of all, I think the important thing is like, don't worry so much about the crypto or blockchain element. Remember that we're making a game and understanding that we're making it for an audience. So like care about the player audience first, right? If there's a crypto or blockchain element, like how's that going to enhance the player experience? And I think that's very important to understand before you start making that game, instead of saying, just like, hey, there's this new hot technology out there. Let's try to make a game out of it, right? Then it just sets you up for in the wrong direction right from the beginning. Right?
Mm-hmm. And I think so too. I mean, I've seen a Twitter post saying, "Hey, why isn't decentralized gaming? Why doesn't it have a fancy fat word? I mean, decentralized finance. We got DeFi. It's like popping right now. Why not DeGA? I mean, other than it sounds horrific, I think it's also in the wrong direction too. It's not just about decentralized gaming, but it's more about gaming with decentralized elements or gaming with blockchain. I think that kind of sets us off in a slightly better direction where blockchain is not the focus. Because at the end of the day, a game is still art. It's still a presentation of an artist's vision, or I mean, one of you guys' vision, and that's important, right?
Yeah. Like, how does decentralized gaming better the player experience to not have updates from the publishers or the developers that are building the game, right? It's in the best interest of the developers to continuously provide the best experience to the gamer. So from their perspective, they can continuously make money, right? So to be decentralized, saying, hey, we don't want anything from you. We'll take the bugs. We don't want it fixed. I mean, it's just like a funny concept, right? If anything, if you look at gaming itself and how it's evolved, when we used to have that Super Nintendo, Super Famicom at home, before we had the internet that was all hooked up to our consoles and stuff like that, we, in some way, that was, the essence of like decentralized gaming, right? Because, the developers can't screw with you once you buy your game cartridges. You play it as it is, right? You have a bug, oh well, you play around it, right? But then the game industry has evolved to better the player experience, to continuously give them updates, new items, and new patches, and so that when they buy a game, that experience can last longer, months, years, right? Yeah.
I think also, so. I wanna add to that a little bit. So the thing is, when they're talking about decentralized gaming, right? They're decentralizing sort of the asset trading component. Like with like Cryptokitties, we are trading the kitties themselves. So non-fungible tokens, NFTs, all these things, right? Which are items or virtual assets related to the game. But at the end of the day, the game is still developed by one central party, one developer, right? So if the developer goes offline and the game doesn't exist, then what are you going to do with it? NFT anyways. There's nothing you can do with it. So at the end of the day, the game itself still isn't really decentralized per se. There's I don't think there's a way to do that at the moment, because like Jason said, who's going to maintain it? Who's going to make the updates, and who's going to make the game better, right? So and I think that can be achieved, just the decentralization of trading assets and all these things. I think that can be achieved by improving the gameplay component, by not necessarily putting everything on the blockchain and just sort of widening the scope a little bit more.
And I think so. I just want to just throw something quick in there, because one of the things that they were targeting was that these kitties are forever, right? I mean, the DNA is on the blockchain, so you got like 0x, 0a, 3b, whatever. And I guess you can admire your awesome gold color eye kitty by just telling them, yo, look, it's got nice eyes. It's got 092. You see that? Beautiful eyes. And that doesn't obviously doesn't work, right? You can't without the company to render the image and to present that to people and present it in a nice way on the website, people will enjoy and appreciate it, right? So I think definitely there's a centralized element in there, and I think you still have to go back and I think it's all about the art, right? It's like what part of it is decentralized? We get to keep the assets, but definitely the game itself is and a piece of art. Is you're still experiencing the artist's vision of your kitty and whatnot. So, what part of it is decentralized? I think that would be a big argument, for the future.
Yeah, and you also mentioned, the CryptoKitties, how it was sort of catering towards the whales, right? But, the platform in which the whales get to show this off, like that's not decentralized, right? Like you mentioned, the art in which that's used to show off this stuff, that's not decentralized, right? So what is this? It's just the only part that's decentralized really is like what, bunch of codes. Yeah.
It is. So I guess going back, okay, so we've done quite a lot of analysis on the kitties and kind of why it's not the mainstream game yet. Then I guess it's a platform now to give you guys an opportunity to talk about your own game, about Infinite Fleet. How are you solving these problems? How can you make this successful for the mainstream?
Right. Yeah, I mean, Infinite Fleet isn't trying to sell a pitch how, blockchain is going to revolutionize gaming or anything like that, because like we don't really believe in that. For us, like we saw demand, actually more like Samsung saw demand for players wanting to trade in-game items.
Right, and let's give a big background. Who is Samsung?
Right. So Samsung is the CEO at Pixelmatic. He's also the CSO at Blockstream. Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So we just saw that there was a demand, and it wasn't being filled by developers. So rather punishing them, which a lot of the developers seem to do, or close accounts and stuff by selling accounts when they find out, we knew we can address these demands possibly by using crypto, right? But more our own in-game currency that players don't pay for but earn through proof of participation through in-game events. Yeah.
I see. So you've seen that economy set up and where players already demanded free trade. We've seen that pop up in quite a few games, right? And I think one thing to explore in a future video about is kind of we'll do a post-mortem on something like Diablo 2 or Diablo 3, where in-game economies happen, players do sell accounts. I mean, even World of Warcraft, all these Blizzard games, people love selling their accounts, their assets, and that there's a particular demand for that. So you saw that, you say crypto can solve the problem where about item ownership and trade. So is it only for trade? Is that what you're only using the crypto element for? And yes. How do you...
Yeah, for player-to-player trade. Is
right.
Doing, yeah.
Right. And how do you get around with this crypto element? We said one of the issues that pushed CryptoKitties to milk the whales is because they know that the audience base is small. The number of Ethereum users is still relatively small relative to the 2.5 billion gamers out there. How do you want to address this issue?
So we you don't need a certain cryptocurrency like Ethereum to get into our game. The game is free to play, and you play the game. The whole crypto element only really applies to you when you want to take the token out of the game. But until then, it just works as an in-game currency, like WildGrow. So you don't have to worry about wallets. You don't have to worry about wallet addresses and any of that. It just works like any other sort of in-game currency in the game. So what we're trying to do is really just, build the game first and focusing on it. The whole crypto element is just there for people that want to take the money out once they want to leave the game. They're like, okay, well, I've had enough, but I want to get paid for the time I invested, right? So, that's the only time when it really applies. But until then, it's everything sort of revolves in the game.
Well, I don't think only. I mean, I took money out, but I have to put money back in. I mean, there's an economy going on. I mean, I can take money from, I guess I took money from Brazil back in the past. I don't know, there were some Brazilian gold farmers in Diablo 3. Like they sold it for cheap. I'll take that. You can cash out for me, and I'll help you cash out somewhere else. So I guess yeah, go on.
I think the entire concept and the approach and also the user flow is the very very much the opposite for us compared to like CryptoKitties or other blockchain games.
Mm-hmm.
For those so-called those typical blockchain games, it's always first you need to be in crypto, you need to have Ethereum, and then you enter the game with your Ethereum, and then you do whatever you want, and then maybe you get some Ethereum out of the game as well, right? So this is the user flow. But for us, first and foremost, we're building a game that has nothing to do with the blockchain itself. So the actual game is off chain. It runs like a typical MMO game like EVE Online or whatever, right? So we want to attract normal gamers to the game first, and then a lot of these gamers are not going to be crypto users. They might not even understand what Bitcoin is, right? But once they're in the game, they at some point when they accumulate a lot of the game currency, they will realize that, oh, there's value in this. I can use this to buy items from other players in the P2P marketplace, or I can even learn how to send this outside of the game platform into my own wallet or onto a crypto exchange, third-party crypto exchange possibly, and exchange it for some other cryptocurrency, right? So that's the kind of concept we're going for, and that's, in a way, it's going to be like a Trojan horse that's going to onboard potential gamers as crypto users as well, and that's one of our secondary goals. And also, like you guys talked about earlier, people are always hustling out there. There's always going to be hustlers, farmers, and all these people like yourself, Michael. You're a hardcore hustler, right? But a lot of games, they're trying so hard to play cat and mouse with these guys. They're trying to like ban them to stop them from doing what they got to do. It's if you're putting hours of your time into it, like I saw some guy on our Discord server the other day. He said he put in 22,000 hours into EVE Online.
Holy shit,
that's 2.5 years. Like in
Jesus,
total. That's crazy.
That's when you type /played in World of Warcraft and you're just like, oh crap.
Yeah.
What did I do with my life?
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? So people, if people are spending so much time in the game, I think it's fair for them to expect to extract some sort of reward from the game, right? Some real life reward. So instead of trying to always, work against this, I think with cryptocurrency as the in-game currency that sort of serves the peer-to-peer marketplace, I think that's going to normalize this, and also removes the need for players to run and hide and go on eBay or whatever dark web, black markets to buy accounts.
I don't really think you need to go on the dark web for game accounts. I think you want to go there for drugs and murders and stuff and video games.
It was an exaggeration.
So I think that's a good point, Hope, and I hope you guys really learned a lot from this. So, okay, how do people, if people are interested in this and talking to you guys, what's the best way to keep in touch?
Yeah, for sure. So right now we're developing the game, and we have some really exciting stuff coming out. We're working on a brand new trailer with pretty intensive art resources. And if you're interested in keeping up to date with what's happening and seeing all the exciting stuff that we're doing, and of course the crypto stuff as well, you can visit us at infinitefleet.com. And also we're on Twitter, Facebook, and we have a Discord server as well, where most of the discussions happen relating to the game. And you're welcome to join and give feedback and your own suggestions. So yeah, check us out, and got some really good stuff coming.
All right, guys. So I'll put the links down below. Definitely, I think Discord. I love talking on Discord, guys, and I'll be hopping there as well, talking about games. And hopefully, through this, as a community, we can look to make better games and just really get mass adoption. So, guys, thank you guys so much for your time. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Damon. Thank you, Hope. See you guys next time.